time. Oh, there we go. Now I'm live. I don't know why. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Okay, toddler likes when we feed her after removing food because she was throwing at 16 months old. Yeah, just keep feeding her. Don't sweat the small stuff with toddlers. They're going to go through stage after stage after stage. They won't be wanting to be hand-fed at 16 years old, so don't worry about it. They'll get bored and they'll start feeding themselves. I would have been happy if my toddlers wanted me to feed them because it would have been a lot cleaner. But no, they like spaghetti on their head and everything. They always had to go in the tub after a meal. I have a 2-year-old who's almost 3, and we've tried everything to get him to do number 2 in the toilet. He goes number 1 just fine with no problem, but number 2. Yeah, wait a minute. How old is he? Oh, he's almost 3. Okay. I do have a toddler a potty training course. If you're interested, you might want to check that out. Anyway, number 2, there's two reasons for number 2. There's 2 reasons why they're having problems with it that are really common. One of them is they don't like that hanging feeling, you know, when it's hanging there, because they're used to it being smashed up in a diaper. So they don't like that. So the way to avoid that, and the other problem I'll tell you about, is splashback. Maybe they did do a plopper in the toilet and it splashed them and they did not like that. So what you can do is use a little porta potty, you know, one of those little, just a little kid's potty. I used to take that everywhere, by the way. So use that and fill it up with some toilet paper in the bottom so the toilet paper is touching their bum. Might make them feel a little bit more secure. Or you can even sit them down and open up their diaper and just put that in there so it's even more padding. So you can try all that and they won't get any splashback and the poop won't hang that far, right? Does that make sense? But yeah, those are the 2 most common problems that I find with number 2. Just so happens there are 2 problems. Views on sleep training. You mean with a baby? I don't really get into that because it's not controversial, but there's no like perfect way. That's why. Usually I kind of go, yeah, this is what you do. There's no perfect way of dealing with that. I co-slept with my daughter till she was, I think, 8 months old. And then I put her in the cot, the crib. And yeah, just let her cry it out. And it was only like one night. But, you know, I cried harder than she did. I kept going in there, though, and patting her on the back. I think I even sat on the floor for a while just with my arm in the crib. She was a pretty calm little baby, so she didn't take a fuss a lot. But yeah, she eventually just calmed down. But the thing is, don't take them out. Once you've decided to do that, you can't pick them up because then it's not going to work. You're just making it harder for yourself. You got to commit to it and just follow through. But yeah, that's a kind of a personal choice what you want to do. Focus what is working in Instagram. I don't understand that. Okay. Okay. When to instate or instill to babies that you're the leader. My 10-month-old is already very opinionated and screams when I take away a toy. I don't want to cry. I don't want her to cry, but I want her to know that I'm the leader. Okay, you got it. If you're a leader, you're not afraid of the crying, the scenes, the fits, the tantrums. That's what makes you a follower. That's what makes you the pleaser parent. Oh, you can have it back so long as you don't get upset. I have no fear of a kid getting upset, but babies are a little bit different. I would divert them. So if you're going to take a toy away, make sure you're replacing it with something else, like picking them up. Or, hey, what about this? You're diverting them. You're redirecting their attention. So, but yeah, you can't be afraid of them getting upset at not having everything their own way. But with a baby, it's a little bit different. You do more redirecting until they're about 16 months. Then you get into them more. You just take it away and they got to learn, right? They got to start learning. They can't have everything they want. But yeah, most parents are afraid of all that. That's why they keep giving in and they're just making everything so much harder, not just for themselves, but for the kids. Any tips on helping with daycare drop-offs? My 19-month-old still cries every morning. He's been at daycare for about 10 months, 2 to 3 days. Well, usually they're feeding off your emotions. Are you getting upset or are you doing a quick business like dump and run? Okay, I'll see you later. Pick you up at 5, and then just walk away calmly. I'm suggesting you may be feeding it by looking upset. Then that gets them upset. So I don't know. I could be wrong. If it's a real problem, you'd have to hire me to figure that out because there's other stuff going on. It might just be that you are the real pleaser and they're used to getting their own way with everything else. So they figure if they keep crying enough, maybe you'll give in. Could be lots of different reasons. If you want me to assess that, then you'd have to hire me for coaching. Everything is in the link above, by the way. Everything in my business that I could provide for you. The free behavior board, the toddler courses, the big boot camp course, and the coaching. That's all in the link above. I'm not answering direct messages anymore. I just can't. I spent, I think, 3 hours the other day I just can't. Just so you know, because between TikTok and Instagram, I can't get to all the messages. This is where I'm answering all your parenting questions from now on. Yeah. Advice for meal times. Toddler pushes meal away and asks for favorite snacks. That's a learned behavior. You would have given a snack before. So yeah, just don't do that. Just say no more snacks. I never had junk food in the house. So my kids, if they pushed a meal away, there was no ice cream or snack waiting for them. We just didn't have junk food in the house. So they just learned at a really young age. That's a learned behavior. You've taught them to do that. So just tell them that's not going to happen anymore. This is all you're getting. If they know that there's ice cream or something, something like that down the pike, they're going to do that. So that's a learned behavior. They've been trained to do that. Almost 3-year appetite has dropped significantly. Any thoughts on that? Growth spurts. I'm not a nutritionist, but growth spurts can cause that. Otherwise, if you're really concerned, go to a doctor. I'm not a doctor, so I can't say. I don't know if it's something else going on, but they do tend to do that. Growth spurts usually. I know my son especially was never a big eater, but he grew 6 inches in 6 months when he was about 15 or 16, and he ate like crazy for 6 months, and then he barely ate after that. So yeah, he went from 5'6" to 6 feet in 6 months, and he ate a lot. So and then when he was little, he did sort of the same thing too. So they go through a lot of growth spurts when they're babies and toddlers, and then when they're teenagers. Those are the big growth spurts where they just eat like a hog and then they don't. So I don't know though. If you're really concerned, go to a doctor. That's not my place. 5-year-old that hits and screams when upset. Look on the behavior board. That's free. Just put down no hitting. Screaming you can't address. That's attitude. You can't address that. You can address the hitting though. And you say no hitting, and there's a consequence. That is the example that I use on the behavior board. I'm pretty sure I change things around a lot, but I'm pretty sure on that behavior board that is the example, is no hitting. So check that out. That's free. It's up above. Thoughts on a good age gap? Nobody knows that for sure. I have 5 years between my kids, but the only reason I did that was I had back surgery after my son. He wrecked my back during labor. It was already kind of messed up, but it was awful. And then I had miscarriage in between my 2 kids. So 5 years worked out really well because it wasn't what I wanted. But it's not like I was upset about the 5-year age gap, but it wasn't the plan. But it worked out really well. My son started grade 1 when I had a newborn. So I had all that time with him, and then I had all that time with her. So it was really nice that I actually really enjoyed it. But there's no perfect age gap. You can talk to 100 different people and they'll say different things. One thing that I've heard though, and I agree with this, if there's more than a 7-year age gap, they don't tend to look at each other like siblings in the way you think about siblings. They tend to look, it's a different dynamic. Like my brother and I, there's like 16 years between us. I was raised like an only child, as was he, basically, because there was such an age gap that I was raised around 3 adults. There was no other kid in the house. It's not like he was fighting me for my Barbies or anything. You know what I mean? Like they say 7 years is when, it doesn't mean that's a bad thing. It's just that they don't tend to grow up like siblings as much. They don't tend to, it's just a little bit different. That's what they say anyway. And I kind of agree with that. Any tips for a 6-year-old who eats super slow? Not really. Some kids they digest their food before they eat it. What I mean by that is they might just chew, and a lot of the digestion starts in the mouth. Mine has to start all down there. I could eat a whole meal in 5 minutes. I wolf it down. So I do no pre-digestion by chewing hardly at all. So maybe that's it. So I can't really say, I don't know. 2-year-old, how long is too long for a tantrum? Yeah, generally 5 minutes to an hour. It's different with each kid. It depends on if they're used to you feeding it and you keep giving them attention during a tantrum, you can stretch it out for ages. But if you ignore it, they tend to be shorter. The better you get at ignoring tantrums, I have a whole course on tantrums if you're interested. The better you get at ignoring them effectively, though, you don't leave the room. They have to see you ignoring them, like you're waiting for a bus. Couldn't be calmer. You don't look at them or talk to them. You're exhibiting, you're modeling calm behavior for them. You ignore the crazy, and then as soon as they're done, you reward the calm. Say, oh, do you want to go read a book? Like, you're all done? Okay, let's go read a book or something like that. But yeah, it depends on if you feed it or not. But they're going to go through it. You can't just stop tantrums. I read somewhere today, I was looking at something, and this person said, the way you stop a tantrum is you give them a hug and tell them that you love them. And I'm like, geez. Yeah, already. Yeah. And it was in one of my, I think it was a YouTube video I did. She goes, yeah, you don't know what you're talking about. All you do is give them a hug and tell you, yeah, okay, whatever. Alrighty. My 18-month-old Didn't push before play dates with a friend her age. The friend pushed her a couple times and she learned today pushed a friend forward twice. Yeah, just keep them separate when they start to get like that. There's not much you can do with that. They, once they start that kind of behavior, they will grow out of it too. They'll just sort of go through stages. But just as soon as you see them going in for the push, you say no and you separate them. Make sure they've each got something to do though. Yeah, but it's just a stage. Toddlers are crazy. They go through stage after stage. I'm going to read you my top 5 toddler tips. My top 5 tips for parenting toddlers, if I can get this up. I wasn't very organized. I was trying to get all set up on YouTube, so I got all discombobulated. It took 3 times to get the YouTube live going. All these lives are saved on YouTube. Now I'm just waiting for my notes here. And my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. Where is that? Here it is. Number 1 is you child-proof your home so you never have to say no. Number 2 is you set up a toy rotation system so they're never bored. Number 3 is when you want to connect with a toddler, you do so in their world. You go to the park and roll down the hill with them. You don't go to the nail salon with a toddler to connect with them. And when you're disciplining a toddler, this is tip number 4, you stop with the mini therapy sessions. They're not about words, they're about actions. So you don't just discuss all their big feelings. And those are therapy. I call them mini therapy sessions. It's ludicrous. I know that it's trendy right now, but it's garbage. Anyway, they're all about consistent corrective actions because they learn through repetition. Not the first time, maybe the 50th time, but you have to be consistent. And then number 5 is stop trying to figure them out. Toddlers are not figure-outable. They're brand new, fresh human beings. They might even go like this and smear poop on the wall. That's completely normal to some toddlers. They don't have any context or about what the world's all about yet. That's why they might bang their head on the floor when they're mad. They don't understand hospitals, death, concussions, bleeding. They have no concept of this stuff. Imagine if you've only been in the world for 2 years. In the first year, you were a potato laying on a mattress. They're just forming. They're brand new, fresh human beings. I always call them crazy, but really they just haven't developed sanity yet. They're not there yet. Cute as a button, but they're all feet, no brains. Okay. 2-year-old keeps saying no thank you to how can we do it? Just say something and then take action. So you say something like, okay, come on, we're going to go eat dinner now. And they just say no thank you. You walk over, pick them up and put them in the high chair. So you say something once and then you take action. So that's how you teach that. They're saying no thank you because they've trained you. You keep asking, right? The more you ask, the more they're in charge. Okay, how to stop whining 3- and 4-year-olds. Okay, I would initially identify it. Say, when you talk like this, I'm going to completely ignore you. But when you learn how to ask nicely, then the answer might still be no, but I will answer you. Okay, but I will not answer whining anymore. So, but yeah, so that's it. And then just keep going with it. It's going to be hard. But the thing is, I know how this stuff works, so it's super easy for me because I know it works. The problem is that you're not going to see the results right away, so you're going to give up too quick. I don't do that. I just keep going. So I keep going till it works because I know it will eventually work. A lot of parents lose faith in this because it doesn't work the first time. And they're like, well, that didn't work. Then you got to keep going. It might take a week. You completely ignore whining. Like if a kid was whining at me and you're not listening to me, you hate me, I'd be like this as soon as they go, may I please have? Sure. You see, like you just got to get good at it. Just get good at it. Ignore the whining. But yeah, parents give up too quick. Okay, you're not going to like my answer. My twins, 3-year-old twins, will scream themselves to the point of throwing up in bed every single night for hours. What can I do? Yeah, yeah. Wait a minute. You said they, and then you said, what can I do to help her? Tell her to help her. So is there one or both? It doesn't matter. Anyway, just means they're in charge. It just means there's no leadership in the house. Work on your leadership skills. I would really point in the direction of that boot camp course. Yeah. It's up above. How to set yourself up as a leader. That just doesn't happen when you're a leader. And I do have a bedtime battles course too, if you want to check that out. That's the mini course. But if they're that bad, there's probably other stuff you need to work on too. The bedtime stuff is dealt with in the big boot camp course. Everything's kind of in there. But yeah, if you just want to know about bedtime, you could just buy that mini course. But check it out. I have the same situation, age gap, and I love it. The 5-year age split, yeah. I think anything can work. I think people sweat over this stuff. The thing is that I know when people have a lot of kids close in age, you just don't get the same time with each one. You're so busy, right? I thought it was great. I had 5 years alone with my son, and then he went to school, and then I had another kid. So it was just this wonderful one-on-one time with I got to thoroughly enjoy each child. Like there was no being pulled in different directions. Different consequences for 3-year-old. Check out the behavior board. It goes through that. Um, my almost 3-year-old always gets hungry after 3 hours. Well, I can't really talk about food. So they get hungry 3 hours after dinner, but I can't really talk about nutrition because I'm not a doctor or nutritionist. But with my kids, I always say with my kids, they were grazers. Kids aren't big meal eaters. Every 3 hours, yeah, they probably did have something to eat, just something little. So yeah, that sounds completely normal to me, to be honest. I know I'm a grazer. I eat every few hours. Um, blah, 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 blah. Okay, I don't. Okay, this is peer pressure. I'm getting mom to mom pressure here. I'm assuming, or someone's telling you. Someone's whispering this in your ear. I don't send my child to childcare. They're 18 months old. People say it's good to send them for socializing, but we go to the park every day. Do you think this is enough? Seems unnecessary. Why are you listening to these people? Are they pros? And why would they tell you that? Like as if they know. That's a personal choice. You want to send your kid to daycare or not? It's a personal choice. With my kids, I went to the gym every day. So every weekday. So by the time they were up on their feet, that's when I started going with them and they went in the daycare there. And that was, my daughter didn't enjoy it. Funny thing is she became the massive joiner. She joined everything. My son loved the gym daycare. He used to cry on weekends. I'd try and get dressed for the gym because I used to teach aerobics and that too. So I couldn't even get dressed in front of him. He'd start to cry when he knew I was going without him. So he liked it so much, but that doesn't really matter. Don't sweat the small stuff. If you want your 18-month-old to go to daycare, send them there. If you don't, tell other people to shut up. Okay, don't tell them to shut up, but in your head. Everyone's got all this advice. I never told friends what to do. It's just, yeah. Any tips on how to teach a toddler or young toddler to share? Nope, not at all. They don't really get it till they're 3, and even then, it's usually 3 and 9 months, 3.5 to 4. That's when they can start to really understand sharing. But no, I have no tips on that. Just prevent them from getting nasty and grabbing stuff. But it's very hard to teach a little one how to share. They don't get it. They can just be taught how not to grab stuff. There's a difference between the two. Okay. Our toddler is constantly playing with toys that need our intervention. So in other words, you want to get them to play independently. Make sure that it's stuff that they can play with independently, and then start playing with them and then look like this. Oh, right, I forgot I have to get some laundry on the go. And then just, well, I'll be back, and then just go away and just don't go back. So that's what I did with my daughter, especially. She was like Velcro. So I'd say, oh, shoot, I forgot I have to get another load in the dishwasher, and I'd wander up. Next thing you know, she's playing on her own. It just takes time. You have 2 under 2. You're very busy. I've known people who have bang, 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 3 kids, 1 year apart, if that. Yeah, wow. Any tips on getting my 2-year-old to stop throwing herself when she hears the word no? No, no. I would ignore it. If she's hurting herself, you have to intervene and prevent her from banging her head on the floor, I guess. But other than that, I wouldn't give it any attention. They do that for attention. So, in other words, they don't do that if you're not in the room. Children never go in a room and have a tantrum all by themselves. It's a theater. My 3-year-old rejecting mom only, purposely refuses anything coming from me. I don't know what's going on. You'd have to hire me to figure that. I'd have to assess the situation. I don't know the context. So jumping on couch, I assume you mean. I don't know how old they are. Are they 16, 6, 16 months? I don't know. You need to put an age. When to start potty training? I keep hearing below 2 years old should not start. Well, there is no set age, okay? The thing is, when they're under 2, they're more inclined to have accidents. But I did mine. Both my kids were 2.5 when I potty trained them. I actually have a course on that. But if you're ready at 2, or might not be ready till 3, usually 2.5 is a good age, though. There is no set age. Every child's different. They develop differently. And but yeah, so check out the potty training course. That's actually my most popular course. It's a party, by the way. Potty training is a party, not for you, but for the child. What do you recommend to do, say, if your 6-year-old gets mad over little things, like if what he's drawing came out wrong, or if he doesn't want to move on something he doesn't? Okay. Are you a competitive household? Do you focus on winning? When someone wins a game, do you make a big deal out of it? So in other words, losing isn't good. Not being perfect, not winning isn't good. That's what I'm suggesting that comes from. I might be wrong, but think about it. Am I on track there? Yeah, get away from that stuff if that's the case. What's a good Christmas gift for a 2-year-old? I don't really know what's out there, but I know what I used to like for my kids is anything where they started with where it didn't look like anything, and by the time they were finished playing, it looked like something. So they had to build stuff. I love stuff like anything creative, Play-Doh, um, blocks, anything where they had to make something out of nothing. Like they just got a pile of something and they had to turn it into something. That's what I like personally. That's what I found that kids spend the most time on. You look in classrooms, they don't have like set toys where they pull something and listen to it, do they? There's no creativity or learning in that. It's just, yeah, so it's all blocks and puzzles and stuff where they have to put stuff together. So that was my preference with my kids always. My daughter sometimes pinches herself. I don't know, is she 12, 2? You need to put an age in those things. 2-year-old jumping on sofa, just say no, take them down. Every time they do, just keep saying no and then take them down. And take away a favorite toy or something. If they keep doing it, say no and then put a favorite toy away. It has to be visual. It has to be consistent. So make sure that you're making it a negative thing. They have to associate jumping on the couch with something negative. So you say no, and then you put something away that they like. It's going to take time. It's not an overnight fix. Everyone gets so frustrated. What do I do to stop it today? Nothing. It might take 2 weeks, might take a month. Toddlers don't learn overnight. What are some good ways to praise good behavior for 2-year-olds? Oh, you want to go with the praise stuff. I don't do that. Oh, geez, do I really want to go on about that? I'm going to do a video on that one. I'm going to do a video on that one, okay? Just let me write it down. How to praise a 2-year-old. You're probably thinking, what are you talking about? You don't praise? Yeah, you're all over your kids telling them how wonderful they are, but you never praise good behavior. It's in line with you never have a reward chart. They're horrible. Do you know what a reward chart says? You're normally rotten, but if you should happen to be good, you'll get a reward. So if they're good, you go, oh, you're so good, you're so wonderful. Like they're normally not. I just expect good behavior. That's my baseline. So yeah, I used to say to my kids, if you're good, life is good. If you're bad, life ain't so good. I'll make sure of that because I'm your mom and that's my job. So yeah, if you get into praising good behavior, they start to think that's not normal. So good behavior isn't normal. It's a psychological twist there. Anyway, I'll do a video on that. I'll collect my thoughts and get better at explaining it. I know exactly why I believe that, but I haven't communicated that very effectively here. 2.5-year-old biting her own hand when frustrated or mad. Generally, they'll outgrow that. Usually when they cut skin and get a bit of blood going, they'll usually stop that. And it's your reaction too. They're doing that to get you upset to get their own way, generally. But yeah, it's usually just a stage. It's not a quick fix. Does anyone here have teenagers or anything? I like to mix up the ages. My specialty is teenagers. So I know it's mostly young, little kids on here on Instagram. But if you have a teenager and you're watching, it's my favorite age. That's my specialty. So just trying to throw that out there just to mix it up a little bit. Just in case you're thinking, should I even ask? Does she know anything about teenagers? Yeah, they're my favorite age. So, and everything in between is not my favorite age. Teenagers are, but I deal with all ages. 3-year-old boy is getting too aggressive when angry, excited, hitting, biting, punching, screaming. He has 4-year-old, 1.5-year-old, 4-month brother. Is he under too much stress? No, he just isn't getting enough direction. Check out my boot camp course. That might be for you, especially if you got 4 kids. That might really come in handy. It starts at the age of 3, but yeah, you'll learn a lot in there. Anyway, check that out. Here again, my almost 3-year-old daughter pinches herself. How do I intervene? I don't know what to tell you. It's usually just a stage. It's like when they bite themselves too. It's to get your reaction generally, unless it goes into almost like a tic or a Tourette's kind of thing. Sometimes that can happen. That's a different issue. But if they're just doing it because they're frustrated, you can give them something else to bite. Say, here, bite into this if you get upset. But yeah, it's usually just a stage. My 4-year-old tends to tell me no and then says yes all the time. I don't know what you mean by that. What parenting books do you recommend? I've never read one, so I don't know. I just learned everything through kids. But this is what I recommend. If you're going to look for a parenting book, you look at the author and look for these two qualifications. If they don't have these two qualifications, I would never get it. They have to have finished the job with their own kids. If they're not a parent, how can they teach it? It's not like it's just one of those things. It's experience based. So yeah, they have to finish the job. Have they raised their kids and finished? Have they lived with teenagers? So, how qualified are they with parenting? And the other one is they have to have had experience with hundreds of other kids with all sorts of challenges and all different ages. So look at they have to have those two criteria. Otherwise, it's like taking financial advice from someone with $10 in the bank. What would be the point? They have to be heavily experience-based. 4-year-old hitting at school. You can address that on the behavior board. Say no hitting, and that includes at school. So say the teacher will be reporting to me, so if you hit, there's a consequence. The behavior board is completely free. Is it good to keep kids in a bubble or no? I don't know what you mean by that. Oh, a teenager. I have a 15-year-old who loves to talk back. How should I respond? Okay, I'm going to read out my top 3 tips for parenting teenagers. He talks back because you're feeding it, by the way. Okay, here's the thing. You listen to, number 1, these are my top 3 tips for parenting teenagers. Things really shift and change in the teen years, starting at 13. You listen to understand and show empathy. You don't listen to gather information to lecture with. When you get really good at the silent listening, is what I call it, they'll tell you everything. And if they want your advice, they're going to ask for it. They already know it anyway. Number 2 is you negotiate pretty much everything. So, hey, I want your dirty clothes in the hamper from now on. What do you want from me? It shows reciprocity and respect, and you're much more likely to get a good result from that. And number 3 is don't sweat the small stuff. Let it go. Save your energy for the big stuff, because if you do get big stuff, you're going to need the energy. Okay, those are my top 3 tips for parenting teenagers. Listening, negotiating, and don't sweat the small stuff. Things really shift and change in the teen years, and you got to get really good at listening. That's number 1. My kids told me everything. I told my mother everything. So, because she was a safe place to land, as was I. Get really good at listening. He's talking back because you're engaging in that. I don't do that. I would, if they're talking back, if you say something to them and then they start talking back and you say something like this, I'll tell you what, let's discuss it after dinner. Don't say when you calm down or when you do. Don't point any fingers. Say, I'll tell you what, let's discuss this again after dinner, okay? And then just wander off and discuss that. And always calm, always calm. So yeah, it's tricky. You know what's interesting? Is when I'm hired to work with teenagers, the girls are like anywhere from 12 to 16 on average. They can be 18, they can be whatever. But with boys, it's almost always, not almost always, but huge percentage, just turned 15. That's when I'm most hired to work with parents with teenage boys. That boy has just turned 15. It's interesting, eh? Not every time, but a lot. Okay. My 3-year-old doesn't follow my directions and says no until I take something away like TV or plays around, and I need his to follow his directions in that moment. Yeah, you just haven't got organized. You haven't got systems in place. Start with the behavior board. If you want to use check out the boot camp course that teaches you how to set yourself up as a leader and get systems in place. Systems are great. Kids love routines. We love routines. We work very well with directions. And so there's a lack of understanding there and a lack of systems and a lack of a backbone, I would say, too. Because if they're not taking directions, you probably give in more than you'd like to. Am I right? So, yeah. And this isn't about the authority style parenting. You don't want obedient soldiers. That's ridiculous. My kids, they told me everything. If they didn't like something I was doing, I heard about it. So they had a voice. But it's about fun. You want to connect with your kids. You want to have fun with kids. Parenting was the most fun I ever had. It was the most fun time my whole life was raising my kids right through the teen years. It was fun. You want to be fun. Get that pesky discipline out of the way. You treat discipline, whenever they do something bad, I would say something like this, and they really didn't past the age of 3, really. They were already trained, 3.5 especially. So I just say, oh, well, you shouldn't have done that. So what do you think we should do? Oh, maybe I'll empty the dishwasher tonight. I'd say, sure, sounds good. They sort of they were self-disciplining. So then we could just relax and have fun. Do you believe that toddler can get traumatized just by letting them cry it out or throwing a big tantrum? Not if you're standing right there calm as anything. No, I don't believe that. Yeah. The only way to stop a tantrum is to give them what they're tantruming over. That doesn't even always work. So if you start doing that, the next tantrum's going to get bigger. The next one's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And next thing you know, they're going to be 16. You're going to be handing them women that you've hired and drugs just to stop the tantrum. So yeah, if you're standing right there and you're calm as anything, I can't imagine them being traumatized. It depends what else you're doing, what kind of relationship you have. Are you meeting their needs? Are you a loving parent? Do they feel safe? Do they feel loved? Do you play with them a lot? So you're meeting their needs first and managing their wants. Tantrum is about managing their wants. As long as you're meeting their needs, they're not going to get traumatized by ignoring a tantrum. It's just all this crap about self-regulating their emotions. And, oh my God, I hate all that crap. It's just a bunch of garbage. I could go on about that forever. I saw this pleaser parent style coming in 30 years ago, and I said, we're in big trouble. You're going to raise self-entitled snowflakes with mental health issues, and here we are. You know, it's just that rolling out the red carpet, trying to make everything easy for them, so they end up like, you didn't validate my feelings. I'm just a bus driver, lady. Like, they're just so self-entitled. That's what you're doing if you're using the pleaser, you know, that's that style. That's what you're doing. You don't want to do that. So yeah, don't give in to the tantrums. Anyway, I'm going to get going. I'm going to move over to TikTok now and do the rest of the live. The whole live is on YouTube. While I'm moving over, I'm going to answer the YouTube question. So anyway, if you want to join me over on TikTok or YouTube, you can go there. It's all Bratbusters Parenting. And go to the link above if you're leaving now. It has everything I've got in my business to offer. Okay, moving to TikTok. Come on. Whoops. Go live. There we go. Okay, Emmy, my almost 2-year-old is starting to hit. I'm trying to okay, I have a little mini course, Emmy, on toddlers who hit. It just goes into great detail about how you manage that. And it also tells you how to manage other stuff. It's not just hitting, but it explains how you do that. So I'm just waiting for TikTok people to turn up. It's funny because TikTok, I have like 500,000 followers. And I only have 100,000 on Instagram. But I get the same amount of people turning up in lives. Isn't that interesting? I can't figure out social media. Welcome. I just finished over on Instagram. I'm assuming you probably joined me from there. I do half and half now, half on Instagram, half on TikTok. Last night I had to rush out, so I only did Instagram last night. I've never done that before. I usually just do TikTok or TikTok and Instagram, but now I'm trying to do half and half. Okay, so we can just start in with your parenting questions. Sorry, I live downtown. There's a lot of sirens right now. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. If you're new here, which I doubt, it's usually regulars on TikTok. It's usually regulars. But anyway, if you're new here, my name's Lisa. I'm a parenting coach. If you go in the link above, everything I've got to offer in my business is there. You can get my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my big boot camp course for 3 to 12-year-olds, or personal coaching with me. That's all done 1 hour a week on Zoom usually. Anyway, so you can check all that out later or now, whatever you want to do. So let's get going with your parenting questions. It's usually a lot of toddler stuff on Instagram especially, but I do specialize in teenagers. So all ages, or what you can ask questions about all ages. But I think what happens is people sort of join in, see it's all toddler questions and think, well, she doesn't know anything about 15-year-olds. That's my specialty. I love teenagers. So ask away. If you haven't been to, okay. What does your boot camp cover? I have a 3-year-old. Okay, I'm going to read it out. Okay, just a sec here. I've got a million screens going. So I just had to answer a quick message. Okay, so let me just look it up. I'm looking up the boot camp course. It's all in the link above if you want to check that out. And I just did a video today introducing it. And did I do that today? I can't remember. Okay, so the Bratbusters boot camp, 3 to 12-year-olds, by the way, and it's all about you. It's all about your leadership. Whenever I get parents and I'm coaching them and they do that course, they go, oh, I get it. It's all about us. Yeah, we're never fixing kids. We're fixing and teaching parents here. You lead, they will follow. You lead, they will follow. It's a natural instinct to follow a leader when you're a child. They're desperate for it. If you don't provide it, they're going to be very vulnerable out there in the world. They're going to be very susceptible to peer pressure, bullying, the drug dealer on the corner, the internet, the Kardashians. They're going to go searching for a leader somewhere else. You do that. You do it. Okay, I'm just going to generally read. Okay, this is how the boot camp course works. It's 5 weeks. The first week is a behavior board. The second week is a behavior board. The third week is a behavior board. By the end of that, you're going to have 3 behavior boards up on the wall. It goes into great detail. Those are the lessons, and there'll also be homework each week. But then also there's a whole bunch of other stuff like I talk about how to do allowance, parent guilt, sex education, tantrums, homework, all sorts of little tips each week. And then by week 4, that's what everyone wants. That is the in the moment discipline. So you get away from the behavior boards. Now you're doing right in the moment disciplining. Okay, so you're doing right in the moment disciplining. And everyone wants that. You can't rush that. I never used a behavior board. The behavior boards are a teaching tool to teach you how to start setting up rules and consequences. You're on there too, by the way. You have to be punished too if you make a mistake. Believe me, if I messed up, my kids were very quick to say, what are you going to do, Mom? What do you want? So you got to be accountable because remember, they're watching you. That's what a leader does. A leader leads and sets an example. So the whole course is around you. It's all about you. Anyway, so week 4 is the in the moment discipline. Week 5 is the same thing, but also moving towards your parenting goal. What you can expect, you might have some setbacks. You might have to revisit lots of things. And this also can be used as reference throughout the years because I talk about all sorts of stuff in here. Preparing for the teen years, online safety. That's really important, online safety. I know of one person who's in jail because of me calling the cops. I figured out really quickly this young girl was taught she was going to meet this person. Sure enough, it was a creep who was waiting for her. So the cops, it was a whole sting operation. I don't know anything about what they did, but I just heard later on. Online safety is super important because they're very naive. They're very susceptible to creeps online. Parenting through divorce. That's another one. I was divorced. They don't care if you're together. They just care that you get along. Okay, I'm gonna read out the final note in the whole course, the boot camp course. The very final note is your calm leadership parenting goal should be this. Your ultimate goal is to raise self-disciplined children. We all want self-discipline. Discipline gets a bad rap. You teach them how to be, it's all about me teaching them to be self-disciplined. That was my whole goal with kids. It wasn't me disciplining them. I never had to discipline my kids. They were self-disciplining. They understood accountability. They understood you do something bad, there's going to be a consequence. They understood that. So your ultimate goal is to raise children with self-discipline right through the teen years. It'll just take you right through there. Those are kids who are consistently making good choices. And when they do make mistakes, they take responsibility for their actions and offer appropriate consequences. For example, Dad, I apologize for leaving my dirty dishes on the table. I was in a hurry and completely forgot. How about tonight I put everyone's dishes in the dishwasher as a consequence? Kids will actually start saying that to you. Is the course free? No, it's not free. No, it's not. And also, I'm answering comments in there. I get questions on that. So it's always got my input as we go along. And then I said, is it really possible to achieve this? Yes, absolutely. It may not happen tomorrow or even within a few months. Furthermore, not all children will reach the same level of self-discipline. Each child is unique. It's essential to set reasonable expectations based on your child's personality and developmental stage. So you got to be realistic with all this too. But both my kids were self-disciplined from a very young age. I would say about 3.5, maybe 4. So yeah, that's what you want. That's the course. No, that is not free. The behavior board is free. But the course, no, I put a lot of time into that. And it is still, I'm still answering comments in there all the time. Okay. I don't understand this. My 3-year-old is a light. My 3-year-old is a light, but I tend to get very overwhelmed by his tantrums, defiance, I don't quite know what you mean by that. Anyway, tantrums. I have a whole course on toddler tantrums if you're interested. My most popular course is the potty training one, which I love. It is a party. It's potty party. And but the tantrum one, I would thought that would have been more popular because that's what people talk about the most. But anyway, yeah, tantrums, you just got to ignore tantrums. I'll tell you a story. Which one should I tell? Yeah, I'll tell the swing story. That's a good one. This is how it's an example of how you manage a tantrum and how you don't want to manage a tantrum. So anyway, true story. My son was 2 years old. I took him to the park and there was another mom there with a little 2-year-old boy. It was just a neighborhood park. She was new in the neighborhood. So we're both putting our little boys on the 2 swings that are there. And we're like, hi, how are you? You know, we're just introducing ourselves. And then both our little boys at the same time, so I got hair stuck in the wrong place. And both our little boys at the same time pointed to the other swing. They wanted to switch swings. So we're like, well, who cares? Let's just switch them over. They both started tantruming right away. So here's what I did. I took my son over to the bench. I sat him down. He went to run for the swing. I put my arm out really fast. He knew me enough to sit back and have a tantrum because there's no way he's getting back to that swing. So anyway, he just sits back and he has a tantrum. Only lasted about 2 minutes. While he's tantruming, I'm looking at the trees, the birds, I'm looking around, completely ignoring him. Soon as he stops tantruming, I look down at him and I said, "Oh, you all done? Okay, let's get back on the swing." And that was it. That was the end of it. He knew I ignore the crazy and I reward the calm. He knew the sooner he calms down, he's going to get on that swing again. Okay. That was how you do it. The other one, this is what happened. It was awful. Anyway, so she's talking to him the whole time. He's screaming. He's pulling. He's trying to get back to the swing. She's fighting with him. It's a disaster. She's talking about feelings. Mommy loves you. You know, mommy loves you. You know, you shouldn't have done that. So it went on for 20 minutes, this tantrum. And then when he was done, he got the hiccup cries. That stuff. Not only did she not reward that when the tantrum was over, she gave him a lecture. The mini therapy session, the lecture, which I hate. She starts talking about everything he did wrong and what he should have done right. And this poor kid, 30 minutes of hell with this kid. I guess he finally went back on the swing. My kid was tired of swinging, so we were going home. So they finally got back on. What a mess. Okay, she was feeding it. Attention is tantrum food. She was feeding it. She was doing everything you don't do. I just ignored it. My son, by this time, he knew me well enough to know he was starting to learn. He was only 2, but he was starting to learn. Hey, I know my mom. She's never going to give this any attention, but as soon as I calm down, I'm going to get back on that swing. This kid, he calmed down. He never did get back on that swing. He still got a lecture. Isn't that awful? Anyway, that's what you do, and that's what you don't do. That's how you handle tantrums. And yes, I know you're going to say, what if they're hitting themselves? And then you just restrain them, physically restrain them. Still don't look at them or talk to them, though. Oh, don't talk to me about medical issues like, yeah, masking and all. I don't get into that political stuff. Okay. 3-year-old who says, stop talking to me. I would say, I will if you will, and I just walk away. Don't give that any attention. That's learned behavior. They've learned to say that to you. They've learned to talk to you like that. My kids have never said anything like that to me. That's a learned behavior. They got away with that. That's gotten them attention. It's made you upset. Both of those things are feeding it. So yeah. How soon do you let the kid get on? You mean the swing? Right away. As soon as they calm, you reward the calm. You got to be fast with this. As soon as he's finished the tantrum. Tantrums are not bad behavior. There are lots of emotional control. They're not even emotions. It's just a momentum once they get going. They can't reason it out. It's just like, they've just lost their nut, right? So yeah, but my son, he was building those connections because a tantrum, here's the way I look at it. I look at it kind of like a roller coaster. Here's the tantrum. They build up and then it's like crazy and then it's crazy. They go down and then it just peters out. If you interrupt it, they're on that crazy roller coaster forever. It never goes down, never stays, never comes out. They don't learn that connection. They don't learn how to start, have, and end a tantrum all by themselves. It's their brain building connections, building that pattern. My kid was building that connection. He knew that as soon as he stopped tantruming, there was probably going to be a reward. It doesn't have to be a swing or a candy or anything. It just means attention from mom. That's all it is. All of his mom's ignoring him during the crazy, and as soon as he calms down, he gets attention. You ignore what you don't want, and you reward what you do want. You don't do that with everything, but you do it with tantrums. One-year-old freaks out when I change diaper, but is fine when dad does it. Well, then we know who's in charge, don't we? Because it was the opposite with my husband and I. And even if I was in the room, my kids would start to squirm and see me, and then they'd stop squirming because they knew that I might take over. And if I took over, they were going to get changed. Like it was just going to they just knew. They didn't even really fight me because they just knew. Yeah. They know who's in charge. They know it because like my ex-husband, he would have started changing them. If they started squirming, he would have said, okay, do you want a toy? Do you want to? No way. I would have done that. No way. Yeah, you're getting changed. It's happening. So yeah. Selective mutism. Yeah, it's not that uncommon. I've worked with families who have that as a child. I would have to assess that. That's a coaching thing. If you want to hire me to work on that, you'd have to hire me for that. That's not a TikTok answer. Okay, well, I already know what's going on here. My child tends to act out when I'm in public or people are visiting. What do I do? There's 2 reasons for that. One is that you are afraid of them when you're out. You're too embarrassed to discipline, so they know that. The other one is that when you are home, they get everything they want. And when they're out, they don't get everything they want. Okay? So neither one of those is a great option. So look at the boot camp course. That'll teach you how to set yourself up as a leader, and you're consistent everywhere you go. I was the exact same mother no matter where I was. My kids never would have asked me anything if asked for anything if they knew the answer was no, and they always knew if I was going to say no to something, and it was no big deal. Why would they ask me for something if they knew I was going to say no? I wouldn't even have said no. I would have said, "Are you kidding me with this?" Like, so yeah, I was 100% predictable and consistent. So they were the exact same, no matter, even if I wasn't around. But past the age of 3 or 3.5, they're under your leadership umbrella. They form into that. If they respect you and you're a leader, by the time they're 3.5, they respect everybody. And my kids, by the time they were about 3.5, if their dad was the pleaser parent, nothing wrong with that. Usually most families will have a leader and a pleaser. That's okay. You kind of balance each other out. I didn't want him messing the kids up. I knew what I was doing. I didn't want him messing with all that. So I said, no, you just be the treat master. You take them out and have fun with them. And they would push him around until they were about 3.5. Then if he let them get away with something, like I didn't like junk food, then they couldn't wait to get home and tell on Daddy. Daddy, let us have a donut. Daddy, did you do that? So it's kind of fun for them too. But yeah, they couldn't wait to tattle on him to mom, the leader, right? And the leader's often the goofy or funny one too. So I was very much the goofball. Their dad was great. He played with them all the time. He was a great dad. But I was definitely I still am the goofy personality. So you don't have to be serious. They're just serious when you're disciplining. But then when you're a leader, you never have to discipline anyway. So I was just a total goofball with my kids. But I'll tell you, if they ever stepped a toe out of line, I would have gone, are you kidding me? Oh, sorry, Mom. Like, that's all it took. Because they didn't want the fun to stop. There was no fear there. They just didn't want the fun to stop. Do you differentiate sad versus mad, tantrum versus meltdown with tone? Well, you got to know what sad is and what a tantrum is. Are they just sad and mad because they didn't get their own way, or are they traumatized and they're crying? Like, there's just a difference there. Yeah, they're all different. And a tantrum and a meltdown and a scene and a fit, I treat those all the same. In other words, they're just angry that they didn't get their own way. You meet their needs and manage their wants. You don't want sad children. A tantrum is not sadness. That's anger. It's different. Anger is different, but sadness is very different. You can't be the fun leader all the time. Can't be fun. You can be, yeah, you can. Like, yeah, I always had a sense of humor. I don't really have a temper or anything. So yeah, you're still fun, like funny. My mom was very fun. Like, my mom always came out with something sarcastic and funny. And so yeah, you're not like wearing a clown hat and jumping around or riding around in a clown car. Not that kind of fun all the time. But you've got a really like a fun nature, like, kind of easy to be around. Yeah. Yeah. You can be the fun leader. It's just you're not always in a clown car. It's not always that kind of fun. Yeah, I went to my mom, no matter what I said, she always had something sarcastic or funny to say. She was just fun. And I like to think I was the same way. I'm pretty, I'm a pretty positive person. So, yeah, it's different types of fun. There was a Roseanne. I relate to a lot of the Roseanne show because she had a very similar sense of humor with her kids than I did. And Darlene, you probably don't remember this, but Darlene was sort of the cranky teenager in the family. And she said she loved the fact that her mom always had a smart remark for everything. So that's fun, it depends on what you think of fun. Kids want to be around you because you're all about fun. Yeah. If you're fun to be with and you're easy to be with and you're a good listener and you have a good sense of humor and kids want to please you. That's what leadership's all about. It's about connecting and bonding with them. That was my superpower with kids. When I was working with kids, I had no leverage. I couldn't take anything away. I was just had them for an hour or a week or whatever. So my leverage was I was funny or fun. That was my leverage. I would just not be quite as fun or funny if they did something I didn't like. They didn't like that because they wanted to please me. I was a leader, right? They respected me. That's what this is all about. It's about bonding and connecting with them. It's not about, you don't want obedient soldiers. That's garbage. Who wants that? Ugh. When I removed my 6-year-old from bad behavior situation, he freaked. I don't know what you're talking about. I have no idea. Remove him from bad situation? I have no idea what you're talking about. Are you talking about timeout? I hate timeout. If that's what you're talking about, I hate it. So I don't know what you're you have to be more specific. How to effectively correct behavior when my 2-year-old snatches stuff out of my hands. Why do you let a 2-year-old snatch stuff out of your hands? You're bigger. If I knew a 2-year-old was going to snatch something, I would say no, and I wouldn't let them have it. So you're talking when you're just sitting there with your hands open, letting them snatch stuff, like you're enabling them. So yeah, if I knew I had a snatcher around me, there's no way I'd let them get away with that. Don't, set them up for success, not failure. So don't, if you know they're going to do that, then why would you allow them to do that? To take him with me to talk to him. Oh, geez, you mean the therapy sessions? Oh, yeah. What are you talking to him about? Take action. Get the behavior board going. Get the rules and consequences going. You're not going to talk to him about his feelings and his personality and his behavior, are you? Don't do that. Don't do that. It's terrible. It's not going to work. It's not mean terrible, but it's just not going to work. Yeah, you're doing the therapy session stuff. I know where that comes from. That's what I'm up against. That's what I'm up against in my business. I know it. How do you feel about candy for rewards? Oh, no way. Very few things like that. Potty training, you use mini chocolate chips or something for rewards for sitting on the toilet. That's a training thing. When you're training them how to potty train, that's different. That's the only time I ever give rewards. And it's not even good behavior so much. It's just an accomplishment. I never would reward for good behavior. Ever. Ever. Gosh, I'll do another video on that. Never reward for good behavior. Just a sec. My video will explain why. If you've been watching me for a while, you know what I mean. Never reward for good behavior. Because good behavior is just expected. I remember my kids once, one of them said, would have been my son. He would have asked more questions. And he would have said, do you know when my friend does something nice, he gets a candy? And I said, I'm nice all the time. Why don't I get a reward? And my response would have been, well, having me as a mother is your reward. He would have laughed. So yeah, I don't reward for good behavior. That's my baseline. No timeout, but I want him away from the problem. Yeah, I can tell. Yeah, I don't do that. Yeah. If you want me to explain all that in great detail and go through it and assess the whole situation, you'd have to hire me for that. That's in coaching. But yeah, I know, I kind of get the gist of what you're doing. I don't do that. It's not my style. Oh my goodness. Do you ever have issues? Oh, what a good point. From Katie, do you ever have issues with teachers, providers not having the same leadership strategies? Why on earth would I care? I only care about my mothering skills, me. I don't give a hoot. I was thrilled when my kids got bad teachers, other people who were doing everything different, because that's life. That's life. I was thrilled. Both my kids got a bad, I won't say what grade, just in case the teacher might be out there that knows. They both got a bad teacher for the same grade, and I was happy about it. She ended up quitting. She should not have been teaching. She had a mean streak. She didn't like kids. And I was really glad my kids both got her, because I thought, great, you're going to come up against bad bosses. And, at home, everything was great. But when they went out in the world, I wanted them to have challenges. I wanted them to learn how to deal with difficult people. So yeah, why on earth would I I'm not like that. I don't tell other people how to do their job. Plus, I don't know anything about teaching. So why would I've spent thousands of hours in classrooms supporting teachers, but I couldn't teach. It's not my lane. Why would I tell them what to do? I think that's kind of bossy. I wouldn't tell someone else how to do their job. No, no way. No way. The only thing I ever said that was anywhere near that, and it's a little bit different even, when both my kids started school, grade 1, I said, if my kids ever step a toe out of line, never discipline them. That's my job and I'll do it. Because there's no way I wanted my teachers to have to discipline my kids. That's my job, right? So teachers love me. They never had, my kids never stepped a toe out of line. But that's my job, to send good kids to school. That is my job. I wouldn't do that to teachers. The only negative with that, and I kind of know why they did it and they had to do it, but it was frustrating for me. My kids were really well behaved, and I had a friend who had kids. She was similar to me. Her kids are really well behaved. Where do you think they put our kids in the classroom? Right between the difficult ones. So my kids, oh, because they were always exemplary behavior, they always got stuck between the difficult kids, like really challenging, difficult kids. They would have loved to have been able to sit with their friends, but no, they were always sandwiched, just trying, because they always put the easy kids between the difficult kids. So I thought that was kind of unfair, you know? That was the only, I never said anything. I never tell a teacher what to do. I'm not bossy. It's not mine, none of my business what they do. Oh, I got some kid on here. Jeez. Snotty kids. You know, when someone says something snotty, it's always a sign of their own misery. And I kind of have a little bit of pity, but at the same time, don't waste our time. People are on here asking parenting questions. You're just showing your own misery. Okay. Plus, it must feel awful to be mean. Like, I know every single bully I've ever worked with, they hate themselves. You can't be mean unless you hate yourself. No one who likes themselves and is happy has the ability to be mean. They're oxymorons. They can't go together. So if you're happy, it's impossible to be mean. So yeah, I'm sorry you're miserable, but you know, we're here answering parenting questions. Okay. I've worked with a lot of bullies, so I get it. Okay. What time is it? Oh, shoot. Oh, okay. I got 4 more minutes. Do you do anything bigger for lying than a 24-hour media blackout 9-year-old? Oh, 9-year-old who lies. Okay. You don't start with the media blackout. You know, if you checked out the behavior board, you put down no lying, and if they lie, the first consequence is they have to do a chore or something like that. If they won't do that, then they get 24-hour media blackout. If it's not working, you might have to come up with something else. That sort of behavior board, that's just general. That's just my free advice. If you want more and you're really struggling, you'd have to hire me, because usually it's not just about that. There's usually other stuff going on. You know, like if you're really struggling with something like lying, you got to work on your leadership stuff. So check out the boot camp course if you want the next level. That is coaching one-on-one with me. But yeah. Love your response to bullying. Yeah, I've never been bullied because I could care less. Why would I care what? It's funny that people think I give a crap what they think of me. Like if someone's that vicious, why would I care about what they think? Anyway, I'll tell you a funny story. The very first time anyone ever tried to bully me, I was grade 2. And I was walking down the hallway at school all by myself because I had to go pee in the middle of class. And the school bully was coming toward me. I'm in grade 2. He's in grade 5. He was the school bully. I'd never been alone with him. I was terrified. So he comes right up in my face, and my last name was Hanky. He goes, Hanky Panky. And I said, I prefer Snot Rag and Boogie Bundle. Oh, well, got to get back to class. So yeah, I've always been bully resistant. And he was miserable. I've never seen a happy bully in my whole life. They're always miserable. So yeah, I pity them, but at the same time, you know, geez, they're just sad. Okay. But I've worked with all those kids because I know they're all miserable. And yeah. Lying means the child is afraid to tell the truth because of the consequence. No, not always. They sometimes do it to get stuff. So no, that's not right at all. They often do it to get stuff. So yeah. How does a child become miserable? Usually if they don't have a leader at home. And a leader leads with love. Discipline is just a byproduct of all that. Love it. If you love them enough, you got to discipline them. So yeah, if they got a leader at home, they're not usually miserable. They feel safe. They feel loved. They have direction. They know what's expected of them. They have a safe place to land because they can tell you everything. So yeah, it just gives them such a great foundation. If they've got that home life that's just so safe and so loving, and they feel appreciated and it's fun, that generally they can still go out in the world and come up against some pretty nasty stuff, but they know they've got someone to come home to that they can always rely on. That helps. Like a lot of, like I've dealt with a lot of bullies, and their home life is rarely happy. Rarely. Like the more miserable a person is, I can almost guarantee they come from misery. It's just the way it is. Something went wrong. Okay, I got to get going. If you go to the link above, all my courses, everything's in there. So I've got my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my big boot camp course for 3 to 12-year-olds, and then the next level up is coaching one-on-one with me. It's usually 1 Zoom per week. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me. I'll be back again tomorrow. I never know what time on Wednesdays. So thanks very much for joining me. All of my lives are saved on YouTube, and because I'm also on there. Sorry, I forgot to read the questions on YouTube. Sorry. The reason is that I can't see the screen as well. Like, it's the small print and my old lady eyes can't quite get in on that. Anyway, I'll get better at that. I'll lean into it more. So thanks so much for joining me, and we'll talk again tomorrow. Bye now.